What's up, Richard? How are you, man?
Hey, what's up? Good to hear from you, man.
Dude, I'm a big fan of yours. I played some of your audio on my show.
Oh, shit. That didn't go well.
No. You know what, though? I've been talking about this, and we'll get into this, but I just, before we start, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk with me. I really do appreciate it.
Yes, no problem, man. I had a busy day, end of an 80-hour week. I'm finally, end of the week.
Well, guess what? I'd rather have a politician that knows what hard work is right now than some of these scumbags that are going on that we have. So.
Oh, well, are you talking about the particular orange one in the White House who's never actually had a real job?
We'll get into it. So I'm going to give you an intro, okay?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Tuddle Daily Podcast. And if you listen to the podcast this week, you probably heard this audio that I played from a guy by the name of Richard Rowe. I'd never heard of him before, but he caught my attention. And a lot of my friends were like, oh, how can you support or like a guy that talks that way? And you know what? I don't give a fuck what anybody says or the language that they use as long as they take care of business. That is all I care about. And I'm honored to have the one and only Richard Rowe on Zoom with me right now. Richard, thank you so much for joining me. Did I get your name right? Richard Rowe, correct?
Yeah, you got it right. You're like the only one who does. So congratulations.
Now, let me ask you. Any relation? Because I am a big fan, and I said this when I played the audio. You got to see if you can get Mike Rowe, the guy from Dirty Jobs. Do you remember that show? Did you ever watch it?
Yeah, I'm familiar with him, but I'm not related to that Mike Rowe. I'm sort of related to one who's in prison, but it's not that one.
Well, what I'm saying is that's a great angle. If you could get Mike Rowe to like be your hype man to introduce you before any of your like rallies or anything, I think that would be absolutely huge.
Dude, that would be amazing. But I think he's like a conservative, though. I don't think he would be on board with it.
But now, now you bring that up. How would you classify yourself? Because the way I come from, I don't support any political party because at this point, as the older I get, I think all the politicians we have right now are nothing but crooked assholes. They do not care about us anymore. They only care about the people that donate money to get them elected. I don't think our government will be run by the people until we get lobbyists out of government right now. How would you classify yourself?
Well, I mean, first I start with saying that I have no problem with people who, like, base their politics upon the money that they get from people, provided that those people are people. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we were to go to a full public financing or we just get corporations out at the very least, I would be happy with that, and I think we might actually get back to something approaching representative politics, me personally. That said, I would classify myself as socially libertarian, economically progressive.
All right, so let me go over a couple of these stances. What is your opinion on the Second Amendment? I support it. What is yours?
Okay, well, I have. No, I don't have anymore because I had to sell them. But I had a whole bunch of guns. I like guns. I've had AKs. I've had basically if it's Russian and shoots a 7.62, I've had it. Yeah, Dragunov, SKS. I've had a Barrett 50 cal, but I only fired like 6 times because it's $5 a fucking bullet. So I like guns, and I don't think that we should take them away. I'm not for the assault weapons bans or anything. Now, I did come up with a really cool 5-class weapons classification program.
I would love to hear it.
Yeah, it would. Basically, what it does is it classifies weapons upon performance characteristics rather than types. So the round size, lethality, muzzle velocity, reload time, clip size, or magazine size. Sorry.
Yeah.
And range, all that stuff. So it classifies weapons on their lethality according to an index, and it gives them a number based upon that. And what we would have is like a 5-class licensing system. Like the lowest number 1 class would be, single shot weapons, single action revolvers, shotguns, single action rifles, bolt action stuff. That would be the lowest, and that would be basically anybody can get it. That's pretty much the same as now because they're the least lethal, or they're for hunting explicitly or that sort of thing. Yeah. Then you move up to class 2 would be like a semi-auto. Generally the stuff you would think of short of like an AR. Class 3 would be basically the sort of AR category or AK, equivalent assault rifle type things. And class 4 would be basically the same as an FFL now, class 3 FFL. So it's pretty much all the stuff in that. Class 5 is my very special one that I absolutely love. Class 5 is you can pretty much buy anything you want, but there's a lot of background checks involved. There's a lot of stuff involved. Anything you can get under a current class 3 FFL, you can get under my class 5. But there's no fees. You don't have to pay $10,000 for an FFL, but there's a lot of background checks. There's a lot of storage requirements, a lot of transportation requirements. Like you have to take it fucking seriously. Because I'm not in favor of like outlawing the big guns. Like I think if you're a responsible, mature citizen who actually takes care of your shit, and you treat the weapon with respect, you should be able to go out and buy. You should be able to go out and buy a World War II 50 cal mod Deuce if you want to.
I mean, I agree with that because you can put all the laws in place to restrict gun laws, but the criminals do not obey the laws, and criminals will have guns. And I think right now with everything that's going on, you got to look out for yourself because at this point, I don't think the government has our best interest in mind, in my opinion.
So you're sort of the more on the libertarian side of the gun ownership thing?
I don't support any of them. I support what's right. Now, for example, okay, the reason that I got turned on to, okay, when Ron DeSantis first started, there was a couple of things he did that I was like, okay, he might be a good governor. But the more and more that things have turned, I think he might be one of the worst governors that we've ever had in the history of the state of Florida. For example, he did a lot of stuff for the water restoration for South Florida and the Everglades, and then making way for us as citizens voting for legal medical marijuana. He cleared the way for that. But everything after that has been a big, complete clusterfuck. He is so far up Donald Trump's asshole that he only, basically he might as well be a ventriloquist for Trump because he is so far up Trump's asshole. He's going to do everything that Trump says and does.
Oh, he's a sock puppet.
I think he is jeopardizing the citizens of the state of Florida. I don't know why him and the Republican Party refuse to pass a state law to wear masks. I'm still trying to figure that out. Do you have any idea why they refuse to make people wear masks?
Very likely virtue signaling for Trump supporters. That's my thought on it. Because Ron DeSantis, he's one of these politicians who, much like Lindsey Graham or Mitch McConnell, is going to follow Donald Trump right off that cliff, and we're going to be the bulldozers behind him pushing him off. Okay, he's going to follow him right off that cliff, but the thing is, he's comfortable with that because, especially in our district, like District 3, Deep Red District, they love Trump supporters. They also like me for some reason. Figure that out. Probably a little bit like him. But Ron DeSantis is just virtue signaling for Trump support because Trump came out and said people who wear masks are just politically against me. That's the reason they're doing it. He said that himself. So of course DeSantis is following down that same hole of bullshit. Yeah, of course he is. Now, the thing is, you probably saw my DeSantis video. I'm not sure which audio you played, but I used to call Rick Scott the greatest mass murderer in the history of Florida. He has been replaced by Ron DeSantis. I
agree because not a lot of people, they don't do the research on Rick Scott. We're talking about the same guy that was had something to do with one of the most medical, the most Medicare fraud, the medical fraud.
$10.7 billion he defrauded from Medicaid.
And how many times did he plead the fifth?
All of them. I mean,
yeah.
There wasn't a time that he could plead the fifth that he didn't. So, yeah, he threw. He's very much like Donald Trump. He threw all of his friends under the bus. I mean, he did exactly the same thing Trump does. Is he got away with it too? I believe it was $10.7 billion. I could be wrong, but I know at the time it was the biggest Medicaid scam in history. He threw all of his friends under the bus, threw all of his associates under the bus, and got away with it. He paid a few fines, pled the fifth. I'm out of here. Give me the governorship. And then he rigged the votes, threw away 20,000. I believe it was 20,000 ballots in Dade County, which is how he got in to be senator. So he cheated. So he cheated it. He frauded his way to become governor, and then defrauded again to become senator, which is why we have fucking Ron DeSantis in the first place.
Now, I will say this, though. I'm not one of those guys. Like, I tell people, my favorite thing is when people give me information or a perspective that changes my mind. And I was never a big Rick Scott fan, but say what you want. I thought he handled the natural disasters that we went through, like with the hurricanes and stuff. Say what you want. You might not have liked him, but he busted his ass going from place to place, and he was that, he got the information out to the people. So I'm not one of those people that I hate Rick Scott so much that I can't give him credit. I don't know how you feel about that.
I'm willing to give him credit on certain things. I will say this: he is, unlike Trump, actually a fairly competent businessman.
Yeah.
And thus a good manager. I will give Rick Scott this. He's a competent manager. He's intelligent, which means that, yes, he was able to handle those things a hell of a lot better than Trump would have, a lot better than DeSantis ever could dream of. I will give him that. He's a competent manager and an accomplished businessman. But the problem is, he's sort of like those drug dealers or like those drug cartels who hand out money to poor people so that the poor people don't turn them into the cops. Every good thing he did is just to offset the 1,000 bad things he did, so we didn't throw him out of office.
I agree.
That's
now,
it.
Let me ask you, okay, what do you think is the top three things, the top three most important things that face the citizen of the state of Florida? Like, things that we need to touch on.
Do you mean eventually or immediately?
Yes, what you would like if you got elected. What are the three things? And you don't have to give me three things, but just give me even your most important thing that you want to change if you get into office.
That's a hard question because there's a bunch of them. I mean, I don't know if you've read any of my articles online. I have about 200 pages.
I've read some of them preparing, but I just wanted to hear it from you because I like you. What is it that you do? A lot of people don't know this, but it looks like you're a truck driver, correct?
Yeah, this would be a Freightliner.
Now, I've worked on the Bubba the Love Sponge show out of Tampa, and we were complete supporters of FTEs. We call them full trucker effects. We supported the truckers because they're the backbone of our country, in my opinion. And I've never, there's some bad truckers, but for the most part, that is the salt of the earth. Those are the people that you need to get because they're hardworking class type people that they want what's best for our country.
Well, I think more so now than ever. I mean, as I made the point in another video, truckers today, I think we are maybe the last vestiges of like the true working class of America. We may be if at some point, because we're always in transportation. I think truckers today, if you look at the industry today, it's younger, it's browner, there are more women. It's more representative of the American working class today than it has ever been before. It used to be like I would go to truck stops back in the day and it was like a half a biker bar Klan rally at every truck stop I went to.
Yeah.
Now it's like there are times when I'm the only white guy in the room and I run almost exclusively in the South, and there are times I look around, it's nothing but people of color and women in the room, and it's wonderful, and so it's starting to look a lot more like South Florida than like North Georgia in truck stops these days. Now, I will say this, I was actually going to start a Progressive Truckers Facebook page because I've noticed that so many of them. I mean, I like going to truck stops at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's my favorite time. Pull up to the fuel aisle and I'll put Young Turks on the radio and just turn it all the way up so that everybody in the fuel aisle has to hear it.
Now, I don't mean to put you on a rough spot, and I'm not accusing you, but like we talk a lot about truckers. What do you are there a lot of lot lizards that still show up in truck stops, or is that just a myth now?
Not as many as you'd hope.
No.
Listen, I guess the Girl Scout cookies ran out. There just aren't as many in the truck stops anymore.
I didn't mean to put you in a bad spot, but I'm also an entertainment type show, so I had to ask.
That's fine, dude.
Now, one of the things I wanted to get into.
I haven't forgotten about the three things, though. By the way,
Go ahead. I want to hear them.
No, I'm not ready. I'm just not ready. I'm just letting you know.
I got other questions. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I do believe this. Okay. I do agree things needed to be changed in our country for minorities. Okay. But do you think that we're going so far to one side to help out those people that have been screwed over through the history of the United States, that we're willing to give up our First Amendment right and jeopardize that? Because this cancel culture, we're getting to the point where we cannot say what we really want to say because public opinion can get you thrown off the air, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, it's sort of goes back to the free market of ideas. You know, I mean, it's sort of, I'm not disagreeing with you, so I'm just prefacing this.
Yeah, no.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but before I say the next thing, it's part of the free market of ideas. You know, ostracism has always been part of like how society regulates itself and how society gives itself a direction to move forward.
The invisible hand.
Yeah, the invisible hand of the ideological market.
Yeah.
And this sort of cancel culture thing, this is nothing new. Shit, you can go back to Babylonia and see that. You can go back to ancient Persia and see how they were canceling people in ancient Persia. So, I mean, it's nothing new. This is how humans work. So if the predominant forces within the communication market decide we don't want you to say this, if the next generation, if the people at the universities who are paying tuition at the universities say, we don't want you to say this shit, well, guess what? They're not going to pay you to say it. They're not going to invite you to say it. I understand that. And I say that as someone who's like, many opinions are extremely unpopular. My own campaign manager bitches at me for saying certain things sometimes. But I don't care, which leads into the next thing. I think it's important to have a diversity of ideas, a diversity of opinions. Yes, I do. I think it would be ideal if people were a little more open to that. But on the other hand, we have to understand that right now we're in an existential fight over life and death right now. I mean, it's 90. I'm looking at my dash. It's 96 degrees in Ocala, Florida right now. It's 112. It's 112 degrees in Siberia.
Yep.
Okay? Yeah, everything's fine. The planet is burning down. We're losing our democracy.
So you believe in global warming then, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then I do, though. I'm not disagreeing with you because my dad, okay, and this is the way that I try to tell people, okay? My dad, okay?
I'm sorry, was that a roundabout way of answering that question that I answered directly?
Yeah. No, it was. No, you answered, and that's why I was moving on. But, like, for example, okay, I do believe just because you have a certain view, it does not make you a bad person. And I'm going to give you an example of this, okay? My dad is a hardcore Trump supporter. He was a Democrat, okay? He supported Bill Clinton, changed over for some reason, okay? Now, everybody thinks that since my dad is a Trump supporter, that it automatically makes him a racist. And that's not true because for example, and I know it's going to make me sound bad because, you know, all the white people in the South like to say, oh, well, I got plenty of black friends. Well, you know what? The best man at my wedding was an African-American guy. And my dad, you want to know who my dad hung out with the whole time? My African-American friend that was the best man at my wedding. Now, if my dad was a real racist, like, they try to stereotype Trump supporters. Would he have hung out with the best man at my wedding the whole time? I just think it's the age of where you grow up. It doesn't make you a bad person, in my opinion. I hope that makes sense, or maybe I'm just rambling.
No, it does, but I'm gonna sort of counter that by saying this. I know a lot of people who I would consider to be. Look, I will say this. Let me back up a little bit. By the way, this is only my second interview, so I'm not exactly polished at this.
Say whatever you want. I don't get offended.
No, okay. Racism isn't whether you hate somebody. It isn't necessarily whether you have anything personally against them. It's all about it's all about your biases. It's about your preconceptions about people and how that leads you to make decisions about them. Now, I'll give you a good example. I grew up in the Ocala National Forest, where literally I knew the black person that my mom worked with. I knew the black person that my dad worked with, which means I knew 100% of the black population of Marion County. Okay? Yeah. I liked both of them. That being said, all the way up until probably I was 22, I thought that most black people, that they were the exception because they weren't criminals, they weren't drug dealers, because that's what I saw in the media. That's the representation I saw.
And just to give you a background on my dad, he grew up in Gilchrist County. I don't know if you know where that is.
Yeah. Now, I mean, a lot of it is about your background. Like, I had been seen in the media. All the black people that I saw in the media, I assumed that most of them were criminals and drug dealers. That is a racist idea. Now, me, because at the time I was addicted to Percocet because I got on it when I was 15 for a broken ankle, I didn't have a problem with drug dealers. I knew quite a few of them. I didn't have a problem with that. But if I had been a cop with that same mentality, those same people would be in huge trouble. It's not all about whether you hate someone for what you assume them to be. It's what you assume them to be because of your predilections and your media exposure. Now I will say this: I know a lot of Trump supporters. I have two of them in my campaign. I have two Trump supporters working in my campaign. I like them fine. I get along with Trump supporters better than I do most liberals. Be totally real about it. I sort of consider myself culturally Republican. And they're not racist. They're not bad people. They don't hate black people at all. But I know a lot of them have a lot of the same dumb shit in their head that I grew up with because we're from the same place. So I would say to Trump supporters, if somebody considers you racist, if they say that you have racist ideas and racist predilections, then you should listen to them, explore those, and see if there's any merit to it. You know, don't just be like, everybody calls you racist because you support Trump. That's not necessarily true. But I would suggest that you do listen and you explore and see if you have biases. You have, what the hell's the word I'm looking for? Starts with a P. Not predilections, but prejudices.
Yeah. Now let me ask you. I don't mean to get off, but I just thought of this question. Okay, you said you were addicted to opiates at one time. What were you on when you was it like oxys, hydros?
At which point?
Well, I mean, it's not important. The reason I'm asking is, I think a lot of our opiate problem in the state of Florida could be solved. Do you support the complete recreational legalization of marijuana in the state of Florida?
I support the complete recreational use of all drugs, and prostitution, by the way. And
you think that I would not agree with you, and I know a lot of people don't agree with me. I don't have a problem, especially with prostitution, like you say, as long as it's as long as it's two consenting adults coming into a legal agreement with each other. I have no issue with that at all.
Legalize and regulate everything.
Because, and think about this, the state of Florida likes to tax everything. If you legalize that and you were able to take control of it and make sure it was being run the right way, how much money that would be for the state of Florida, in my opinion. But you're not going to ever get legalization. That's why it's so hard with marijuana, because of the big business, the lobbyists, and the tobacco industry. They don't want marijuana to be legalized.
A lot of that's the private prison companies and the police unions too. That's a lot of that.
Now, all right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just want to put a bow on that real quick. The argument that I've always made for legalizing and regulating all drugs is that if we delegalize these drugs, if you have a market for which there is supply and demand, that market will spontaneously arise. The supply will arise. Okay, that's just economics. So it's just like if we were to ban guns, well, there would become a black market for all guns.
Prohibition. All you got to do is look at prohibition.
Prohibition. That's exactly the argument I was about to make. We need to get rid of prohibition because all prohibition ever succeeded in doing was creating criminal empires, creating black markets, and the mob, and overbloating the prison industrial complex. We have what we do today because of prohibition. Okay, if we want to get rid of the prison industrial complex, we have to get rid of modern prohibition. And it creates black markets, it creates organized crime, not just in America, but everywhere. You look at South America, this organized crime would not exist. Organized crime, as we understand it, which is funded by drugs, which is funded by gun running, is the definition of deregulated industry. It's exactly what happens when you take all the regulations off an industry and you just shove it under the carpet. So if we were to legalize and regulate these things, we would get the benefits of less crime, less exploitation. We would have the benefits of less murder and fewer overdoses and a lot less people dying of dirty drugs, which is what we see now.
Yeah, with the fentanyl, you don't know what, because a lot of people are mixing fentanyl in with the regular stuff and people are dying. Now, one of the things, and this might be a touchy subject, what are your thoughts on religion? Now, I support somebody's right to personally worship whatever they believe in on their own, but I think organized religion, and I know this isn't going to be popular, but I do think churches should be taxed. And that's just my opinion, because you look at a lot of these mega churches, you can't tell me that these mega preachers, like for example, Joel Osteen, does he need that mega church? Does he need that private jet? Does he need that limousine?
No, hell no. And he doesn't need the Ferrari with the stupid yellow brake calipers either.
Thank you.
But he considers it a gift from the Lord. Now, I understand what you're saying. I'm an atheist. I used to be an evangelical Christian. I used to be a pro-life evangelical Christian. And so, like, culturally, that's kind of where I'm from. But I'm an atheist now. I understand the argument about taxing churches, but there's a double-edged sword. Because there's a thing. There's a reason we don't tax churches. The reason for it is if you tax a church, it essentially becomes a profit institution for the state. The state, therefore, has motive to expand the influence of that institution. So, I mean, in other words, if you tax a religion, it becomes a state religion de facto. And so it might actually backfire. It might backfire. I don't know. But I can see the arguments on either side.
But your guy, Ron DeSantis, when everybody was making the argument of why people should be able to go to church, he called it an essential business. Bullshit. And that's all it is an essential business, because these people are making money. If we're supposed to have separation of church and state in our government, why do they get a pass? That's my argument.
Well, I think we should tax them personally. Like the pastors and stuff, they need to be taxed personally. I don't know if they already are. Maybe they are. Are they?
I don't know. I said yes, they should be. I don't know if they are.
Yeah. Well, they definitely should be if that's not the case. But I think that anyone involved in a church organization should definitely be prohibited from contributing to any politician. I mean, if you're a pastor, if you're a member,
they do it though. They do it all the time. And now, and Trump, okay? I hate religious people and what they stand for, especially with the way the Catholic Church continuously rapes and molests young boys, and none of them spend a day in jail. I think that is the worst crime committed in our country right now, in my opinion. And the way that Trump did that photo op with the Bible, I'm not saying anything about it, but I've heard reporters ask him what his favorite Bible verse is, and he basically says, well, that's a personal thing. That's between me and God.
It's 2 Corinthians.
Yes.
That's the whole deal is 2 Corinthians.
I hate when these politicians are fake Christians just for the vote. They're worse than the Christians that judge people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're worse. I'd make the joke all the time. I'm an atheist and a better Christian than most Christians.
Because you know what? Me and you are atheists, but we want to be educated about what we're talking about. And I'm sure we probably know more about the Bible than some of the Christians that claim to be.
Well, yeah, because I was actually studying to be a pastor. That's why I read the Bible cover to cover about 5 times. And I'll tell you this, the quickest way to become an atheist is to read the damn Bible. That's why I was reading it. And I'll tell you, it's like the first 2 times I read it as a believer, the 3rd time as a skeptic, the 3rd time as a literary agent. You know, because I used to be an editor, and the more I read it, I'm like, this thing's just badly edited fiction. It's so obvious after you've read it a few times. That said, I respect other people's beliefs. Like my dad is a Christian. I know a lot of them are. That's fine. Believe what you want. I'm not trying to deconvert anybody, but I mean, let's not make policy based around that. Let's not elect people based around that. Yeah. You know, and especially tying this abortion issue to it is especially asinine because the Bible supports abortion. God is the one true abortionist in the Bible.
Well, I could get into that, but I could talk to you forever, Richard. But I would love to have you on again. I don't want to go too long because I think I could talk to you forever and go in depth. But tell everybody if they want to vote for you or find out more about you, where can they find you?
You can find me on at Rowe for Congress on Facebook. You can look me up on my personal page, which is Richard Rowe on Facebook. Might be Richard Allen Rowe. I don't know. Or actually, I'm most active on Twitter at Reforge America. REFORGE America. That's where I'm most active and where you'll find it. Like I do daily videos and stuff on there pretty much every day, with sometimes 1 or 2 a day, depending on how much something pisses me off.
Yeah. So, well, I want to have you on again. I hope you like this conversation. You know, I kind of have a lot of the values that you have. And, you know, when I played your audio, a lot of people were like, well, yeah, I can't vote for him though because of the way he talks. And I said, do you realize some of the offensive things that our commander-in-chief says right now? And you guys don't, you know, hold his feet to the fire like that. This is the type of guy we need. And I don't give a fuck how you talk, as long as you show me results when you get in. That's all I care about.
That's all I'm about, man. I'm not here to make a show. I'm not here to make a point. I'm not here to deliver a message. I'm here to deliver results. That's what I care about.
I would rather you be real and honest and upfront, because you admitting about your addiction problem in the past is refreshing. It really is, because I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that these politicians have done that are buried and we'll never know about. But you're just getting it out of the way, and that is refreshing, because you don't see a lot of honest politicians that are just putting it all out there for everybody to see.
Well, man, I'm nothing if not a bad actor and a bad liar. Like, I can't. Most politicians are basically just character actors. They're just method actors.
Yeah.
I can't stay in character long enough to lie. So I have to be honest, because I know I'm going to fuck myself up sooner or later. You know, I don't have a choice. Well, it's pathological.
If I lived in your area, you would have my vote for sure. So I want to have you on again. And please, if there's anything I can ever do to help you out, I want to do everything in my power to be able to help you out.
No problem, man. Well, you're doing what you can right now, and I appreciate you. I really appreciate you doing this for me.
All right, Richard, be safe out on the road. It's okay?
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right. All right. We're done recording, man. Hey, that was good. I hope you're happy with it.
Yeah, man. It's only the second interview